to try to orbit around Phobos to just study and take photos of it. And as it was successfully approaching Phobos, the last frame of it, it saw like it got a shadow of this huge cigar-shaped, So like there was like a big spaceship next to it, and then you see like some projectile, like a laser beam, in front of the satellite that it took a photo of, like a projectile coming at it, and then it was out. They lost contact with it forever. So that's kind of weird. But anyway, that's what Andy Basiago says. So he, and he also said that he met 2 gray aliens. He said he went to like some underground base or something, and he met a man and a woman alien. And he said they were grays. They weren't Pleiadians, who look like humans. They were actually gray aliens, but they weren't the grays that are little ones that are fucked up looking, the ones that we can imagine. But they were just as big as us, only their heads were twice as big as our heads, and their eyes, were like twice as big as our eyes. He says they looked like Han Chinese, except the eyes were way like more slittier like that, and bigger, and their heads were bigger and like really wide. So like their heads were perfectly round and huge. And Bashar, who's part gray, he says that the gray alien, the half gray, half human that they look Tibetan. So maybe it is these Han Chinese who are the most closely related to the gray aliens. And so anyways, I kind of picture, remember Star Wars? They have that alien in Star Wars who was working one of the aliens who was working with the fucked up lip, who was flying one of the machines. I think he was flying the Millennium Falcon, actually, with Orlando Calrissian in the 3rd movie. Kind of looked like that guy. Anyways, or maybe even like that little alien who was helped birth the baby in the new Star Trek movie. Remember her with the big eyes? Something like that. But anyways, he said he met them and they were telepathic. And this is what everybody else says who meets grays. So, but he says he spoke to them in his voice, and then they'd speak to him telepathically, and he could hear them telepathically. And he was kind of scared by them because they were so smart. They made the thoughts in his head race so fast that his brain overheated, and he had to leave the room twice. And like one of the times he left, the woman said telepathically to him, "Oh, Andy, don't be scared of us." So he was under the impression that they weren't captive there. They were just like emissaries from wherever they were from. And but that's all he knew. So and he was like, I guess they're with his dad. So that's interesting. So I'd like to know more about these particular projects, Project Looking Grass. But he says that he says he's a whistleblower on that because he doesn't like the secrecy, because he says it's kind of leading towards a authoritarian kind of a existence for everybody else when you can have the government, how he says the government since the year of 1968 has been using this technology to peer into the future with the help of these little kids. And he says they also use kids because they're just better observers. But and, they ask the kid, what when you were watching TV, who was the president and stuff like this. So it's kind of like they would get their information just by using a whole bunch of these kids. And I don't know how many kids they had. I think maybe, didn't he say 60 or 600? I don't remember how many, but they just constantly bring all these little kids into this room. They bring them to the same place, in the same amount of place in the future, and they ask the kids the same exact questions, and they just compare notes between all the kids, and it can paint a kind of a clear story in their minds what the scenery is like, what it is like in the future, in a certain place and a certain date, and that's how they get their information. Kind of like if you're looking through I use this analogy a lot. If you're looking through a screen door, it's something you can't really see it, but if you move around really fast, the screen door can all the little holes connect with each other, and then you can see it perfectly. It's just a little bit not as light. Kind of like that. They would just use all these little kids and ask them the same question, take them to the same place, and then they'd figure out what the future's like. By taking them into this hyperdimensional area where you basically can go wherever you want to go because you can imagine it, because you're in the higher dimension, because this little machine spins around and blocks out all of the rays from the outside world, all of that keep us locked into this dimension, because we are locked into this dimension. We all know that our eyes only pick up a small fraction of the light that exists. That's a good analogy. And so in that token, our brains only pick up a very small fraction of light in the form of reality that exists, and that's this third dimension that we live in. And the eye of our whole brain that connects physically us to this world is our pineal gland. And so it's kind of like melting the pineal gland, but that's, I guess, maybe that's not another video. But anyways, he said the government's been doing that since '68, going into the future, and he says that's why we invaded Iraq, because they went into a future where they saw that Saddam Hussein got his hands on some weapons of mass destruction and used them to attack someplace, like bomb London or somewhere. And so they wanted to avoid that potential reality that they saw in this Project Looking Glass, and just go ahead and preemptively strike Iraq, even though they knew he didn't have it. And so they ran the risk, even though they knew they'd get busted if they do that. David Wilcock actually has another story that, now this doesn't make any sense at all, dude. That Gaddafi had one of these looking glass machines, and he dug up in the desert, and he sold it to Saddam Hussein, and they were afraid Saddam Hussein would use it to his own advantages. So they wanted to invade Iraq to take it back from him. But what doesn't make sense is that freaking thing is huge. How the hell did he transport it to Saddam Hussein, man? What, do they have like a little version, a little one that they can put in a truck or something? But but yeah, Andrew Basiago doesn't like the idea that the government has been using this technology to basically orchestrate whatever they want. A very small group of people controlling the world by looking in the future, like that movie with Aaron Eckhart and Ben Affleck, where Ben Affleck designs that exact thing, that exact machine, and so they use it. Maybe they even called it the Looking Glass. Anyways, I think Andrew Basiago actually mentioned, and other people, that we have these movies to make it so that when whistleblowers come out and tell this stuff, people think that the whistleblower got the idea from the person who made the movie, but in reality, the person who made the movie got the idea from the whistleblower. And so, if you really wanted to compare and see how true that is, why don't you just go and email the guy who wrote the movie and ask him, did somebody come and tell you this, give you the script? Did you find it on your doorstep? Like, how did you, and then, but I guess only they know. But there are a lot of movies like that, and I think I'm going to go ahead and divulge a little, get sidetracked a little bit, and just include this in my video. And that, no, I won't. That'll be another video. But anyways, he says we've been using that technology, the government, look in the future and then tweaking how we want, and he doesn't like that. He thinks we're ready for using our civilization is ready to use